Picture a giant modern cargo ship, just floating, silent, in the middle of the ocean.
Engines are off.
Engines off, lights out, total silence. And inside, there are 20 men.
And they're not shipwrecked.
Not in the classic sense, no. They know exactly where they are. Their boss knows where they are. But the boss stopped answering the phone. Paycheck stopped 6 months ago. Food's running out.
And they can't leave.
They literally cannot leave. It sounds like fiction, right? A horror movie premise.
It does, but it's very real. It's a crisis happening right now, almost completely out of sight for those of us on land.
And it has a name, Seafarer Abandonment. We're doing a deep dive into a brand new report from the International Transport Workers Federation, the ITF. They just dropped this 2 days ago.
January 22nd, yeah.
And the headline is just staggering. It says that the system meant to protect these workers is basically collapsing.
Collapsing is the right word. The report officially calls 2025 the worst year on record for this. And when you look at the numbers, it's not a slow creep. It's a spike, a vertical spike.
We're definitely going to get into those numbers, but my first question reading this was just, how? How is this even legal? You can't just ghost a 50,000-ton ship, can you?
You'd be surprised. It's actually harder to ghost a car than a cargo ship if you know the right loopholes.
Okay, we have to talk about those loopholes. But first, let's just set the scale of the problem. You said 2025 was a record breaker. Just how bad are we talking?
So let's rewind just a few years. In 2022, the ITF recorded about 1,800 seafarers abandoned.
Okay, which is already terrible. That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. But in the grand scheme of global shipping, it was seen as a stable crisis, if that makes sense.
Right, almost like a margin of error.
Exactly.
Right.
2023 was about the same, just under 2,000, but then something just broke. In 2024, that number more than doubled to over 4,700.
Wow, in just 12 months.
And then came 2025. The data we just got shows another massive jump to a new historic high, 6,223 seafarers abandoned.
So we went from under 2,000 to over 6,000 in just 3 years. That's not a trend. That's an explosion.
It's a 32% increase in the number of people affected in just the last year. And it's the number of ships, too. 410 ships were abandoned in 2025.
Wait, hold on. 410 ships?
Yep, up from 312 the year before.
That means more than one ship is being abandoned every single day of the year. Every morning, a new crew wakes up, the phone's dead, and they realize, oh no, we're on our own.
That is the reality.
Yeah.
And we have to talk about the money, too, because they're not just stuck. They're working for free. They're essentially hostages to circumstance.
Right, because I assume the payroll department is the first thing to go dark.
Of course. In 2025 alone, the wages owed to these crews came to $25.8 million US.
25 million. That's just wage theft on an industrial scale.
It is. Now, to be fair, the ITF does incredible work. They managed to recover about $16.5 million of that.
Okay, that's something.
But that still leaves over $9 million. That's just gone. And that's not just a number on a spreadsheet. That's families back home not getting money for food, for rent, for medicine.
It's survival money.
Absolutely.
So I want to get really specific on the definition, because I hear abandonment and I think, Tom Hanks and a volleyball, but in maritime law, it's a technical thing, isn't it?
Much more technical, yeah. The IMO, that's the International Maritime Organization, has a clear set of criteria. You only have to hit one of three.
Okay, what's number one?
First is failing to cover the cost of repatriation.
Getting you home.
Right. Your contract ends. The company is supposed to buy your plane ticket home. If they say, sorry, no cash, and you're stuck in a port in, say, Dubai with no visa to leave, you're officially abandoned.
You're a prisoner of bureaucracy. You can see the airport. You just can't get to it.
Precisely. The second one is leaving the crew without necessary maintenance and support. That's the legal speak for food, water, and fuel.
Fuel's a big one. No fuel means no power, right?
Yeah.
No lights, no AC.
Exactly. You're in a sealed box that becomes an oven in the tropics or a freezer in the winter. And the third, which is the most common, is just unilaterally severing ties, ghosting the crew and not paying them for at least 2 months.
2 months seems like a long time to wait before you can declare an emergency.
It is, but you have to remember, these crews can't just walk off the job. They're stuck. So first the pay stops, then the food deliveries get smaller. Then the fuel runs low. By the time they realize it's not a glitch, the owner has already vanished.
The report has this case study that it's gut-wrenching. The ship is called the Eleen Armonia.
Yes, the Eleen Armonia. It's a perfect, tragic example. It's currently off the coast of Nigeria, and the crew is all Indian nationals.
And they haven't been paid since June of 2025.
That's right. The ship was officially filed as abandoned in August, so we're talking, what, over half a year now?
There's a quote in here from an anonymous crew member. He says, "The situation here is worse than hell."
It's the psychological part that's so brutal. He said the company kept making false promises. They promised to send them home 10 separate times.
10 times. Imagine packing your bag, calling your family, saying, "I'm coming home," and then, "Sorry, not today."
It just breaks you. And this particular sailor, he said he took the job specifically because the timing meant he'd be home for Christmas with his new daughter.
Oh, man.
He missed her first Christmas. He missed New Year's. He says he can't sleep. It's a hostage crisis, but the weapon isn't a gun. It's a balance sheet.
This is where I get angry. Who does this? The owner is a company called Eleen Marine.
Why can't someone just go arrest the CEO? Where was their union in all this?
Well, that's the thing. You'd think the union would step in.
That's their whole job.
But it turns out the company was a step ahead. They used what's known as a sham union.
A fake union.
Pretty much. It's an organization called the International Seafarers Union, or ISU, registered in Slovenia. But the report found that it works with a company called Lenebra.
And Lenebra's business is they sell anti-union services to ship owners.
Wait. So the union is actually a product sold to the company to keep a real union out.
Exactly. It's a smokescreen. The crew thinks they're protected, but the union is a puppet of the employer. It's a complete violation of international labor law, but by the time anyone realizes, it's far too late.
That is just diabolical.
And it gets worse. You'd think, okay, what about insurance? Ships have mandatory insurance for exactly this.
Right. The safety net.
So the insurer for the Eleen Armonia got involved in December. They admitted wages were owed, but then they claimed they were waiting for company permission to help the crew.
You're kidding me. They need permission from the company that abandoned them to save them.
It's a bureaucratic nightmare. The contract is with the owner, so if the owner is silent, the insurer says their hands are tied, and the crew starves.
This all points to a bigger structural problem, doesn't it? This isn't just one bad company.
No, this is a feature, not a bug. And the root cause is something called flags of convenience.
FOCs. We hear that term a lot. Break it down for us.
Simply put, a flag of convenience is when a ship is registered in a country that has nothing to do with its owner, its crew, or its route.
So a Greek-owned ship with a Filipino crew sailing between Brazil and China flies the flag of Liberia.
Liberia, Panama, the Marshall Islands, those are the big three. And the numbers don't lie. In 2025, 82% of all abandoned ships were flying a flag of convenience.
82%. So it's basically the entire problem. Why does this system exist?
It's about two things, money and secrecy. The flag country, say Panama, gets a registration fee. In return, they offer very light regulation, low taxes, lax safety rules, and, most importantly, anonymity for the owner.
It's like an offshore bank account for a giant ship.
The origin story is actually about booze, not taxes.
Booze?
Yeah, back in the 1920s during Prohibition in the U.S., an American cruise line wanted to serve alcohol on board, which was illegal.
Ah, I see where this is going.
So they re-registered their ships in Panama. Suddenly, the ship was Panamanian territory, and the drinks could flow. Now, that same trick is used to dodge labor laws.
Is that even legal under international law?
Well, the UN Law of the Sea says there should be a genuine link between the ship and its flag state. But in reality, that link is just a P.O. box and a wire transfer. There's no real oversight.
And that creates these so-called shadow fleets.
Exactly. These are ships that exist in the legal twilight. They're constantly changing names, changing flags to avoid sanctions or inspectors. The report mentions a tanker called the Marinera.
I'm looking at the notes. This ship has had 6 different names since 2020.
6 names and 5 different flags in 5 years.
It's a fugitive. It's like it's changing its passport every time it crosses a border.
That's the perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And if you're a sailor on that ship, who do you even complain to when the money stops? The company you signed up with doesn't exist anymore.
And Panama is still the biggest offender.
Still number 1. 68 ships abandoned under its flag last year. But what's really scary is the rise of the unknown category.
Unknown flag. How is that possible?
The number of those ships doubled last year. They literally paint over the name on the hull, turn off their tracking systems. They become true ghost ships. No flag, no law, no accountability.
Let's talk about the people for a second. We know the Eleen Armonia crew was Indian. Is that a common thread?
Very common. India is the single worst affected nationality. Over 1,100 Indian seafarers were abandoned in 2025.
And who else is high on that list?
The Philippines is second, with over 500, then Syria with over 300. It's often workers from developing nations who are desperate for the work and less likely to have powerful legal support back home.
And where are these ships physically getting stuck? What's the hotspot?
The Middle East,
Yeah.
by far. The report identifies Turkey, with 61 ships, and the United Arab Emirates, with 54, as the two worst countries for abandonments.
Any reason why?
It's a combination of high traffic and complex legal jurisdictions.
Yeah.
Plus, you see a lot of older general cargo ships operating in that region.
What are those?
They're sort of the old pickup trucks of the sea, not the big modern container ships. They carry things like grain or cement. They make up 40% of all abandonments.
So they're older, less profitable.
Exactly. They run on razor-thin margins.
Right.
If a contract falls through, it's literally cheaper for the owner to just walk away and let the ship rot than it is to pay the crew and the port fees.
Cheaper to throw away the ship and the people on it.
To these owners, the crew is just another disposable part.
So the crisis is spiraling. What's the solution? What does the ITF want to see happen?
They have a very clear two-part plan. First is transparency. They want a mandatory beneficial owner registry.
Meaning you have to know who the real person making the money is?
Exactly. Not some shell company called Ship 123 Limited, the actual human being.
Yeah.
They want that to be a condition of registering a ship, period.
Which seems like just common sense.
You'd think so. The second demand is blacklisting.
Ban the bad actors.
If you abandon a crew, your ships and your other companies should be banned from entering ports. And the good news is we are starting to see some real movement here.
The report says India is stepping up.
Yes, and this is a huge deal. Late last year, the Indian government announced it's targeting 86 specific vessels with bad records. They're telling recruitment agencies in India that they are banned from placing sailors on these ships.
So they're cutting off the labor supply.
And they're holding the agencies responsible. The recruiters now have to report on the crew's wages every 2 weeks, or they risk losing their license.
So it forces the recruiter to be a watchdog.
It aligns the incentives. And here in the U.S., there are also government investigations starting to look into the use of FOCs. The spotlight is finally getting brighter.
It really feels like a tipping point. 2025 was this horrible, shocking year, but maybe that's what it took to get regulators to wake up.
That is the hope. For too long, these owners have been able to hide in the shadows.
Before we go, I want to bring this back to the listener. Most of us aren't seafarers. Why should this crisis matter to us beyond just basic human decency?
Because we all benefit from this system. Look around you right now. Your phone, your clothes, the coffee in your mug. 90% of everything we own came to us on a ship.
We're at the top of that supply chain.
We are. And we want things to be cheap and fast. But we have to ask ourselves, if the engine of the global economy is built on a system that allows workers to be treated like disposable parts, how secure is that engine, really?
That's a powerful point. It's a moral cost that's not on the price tag.
It is. And if this trend continues, supply chains will start to break. We saw the chaos during the pandemic when shipping just slowed down. What happens if it starts to stop because workers are too afraid to get on the ships?
I'll leave everyone with one last thought. We talked about that shadow fleet ship, the Marinera, that changed its identity 6 times to hide from the law. If a ship can hide its identity so well that it can abandon a crew and steal millions of dollars, what else is it hiding? What else is in those containers that the owner doesn't want anyone to find?
That is the question that keeps a lot of port security officials up at night. If you could make a 50,000-ton vessel disappear from the law, you can hide almost anything inside it.
On that rather unsettling thought, thank you for taking us through this. It's heavy, but it's so important.
My pleasure. It's a story that absolutely needs to be told.
If you want to dig into the full ITF report, all the links are in our show notes. Until next time, thanks for tuning in. Catch you later.